Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
So nice to all be together again on Thanksgiving. And joining us, our guest of honor, Thomas Wright, who missed last year's fun sitting in his mansion.
Hey everybody, welcome to a special edition of The Pint. That's right, it's a Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving episode. We are back. My name is John.
My name is Stu.
Next week, in the first week of December, will be our official return with me and the Manster. But Stu and I both decided to go see the film Thanksgiving, the new Eli Roth horror film, and said, you know what, let's do an episode on it because, well, why not? It's very timely, this being Thanksgiving week. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about Thanksgiving.
Start the diesel, all head forward!
Stu, before we get into it, were you familiar with the original trailer from the 2007 film Grindhouse?
I was not. I knew that Grindhouse had fake trailers. I didn't know this was one of them. I have never seen Grindhouse as I guess it was intended to be seen. I've seen Planet Terror and I've seen Death Proof, but I didn't see them when they came out together as Grindhouse. So I've never seen, I guess, the shortened version of each movie. I've only seen like the full feature length version of each movie that they made whenever they became two separate movies. So I've never seen the Grindhouse feature and the trailers that went with it.
I think you can find the trailers on YouTube, I believe. I haven't seen any of them in a long time. This is the second trailer from Grindhouse to become a feature film. Previously, Machete, which is a garbage movie.
It's all right.
It's not great. But it did well enough to have a sequel, I guess, right? Machete Returns or something.
Machete Kills.
Machete Kills. That's what it is. That's a cool name. I'll give it that. I never saw that. All right. So Thanksgiving came out just last week on November 17th of this year. We will not be doing a box office segment as we're recording this on Sunday, and there's really no real box office returns to speak of, but I can tell you it had a $15 million budget. This was directed by Eli Roth. He also co-wrote the story for the trailer from the 2007 film Grindhouse, as we mentioned. You know Eli Roth if you're a fan of Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards. He's Donnie, Abramovitz, the Bear Uden. That's right, the Bear Jew. The man who killed Hitler, in wonderful fashion, machine gunning his face into a paste. I am sure we talked about this on the QT episode. I'm sure many Jewish people who saw that in the theaters probably exploded in their pants, as they deservedly should have. But he's more known as a writer and director. He wrote and directed Stu's two favorite torture porn films, Hostel and Hostel 2.
Yeah, I can't do the Hostel movies, man.
It's too much.
It's too much. I can't. I know. I will tell you, the projected box office numbers are out. If you want me to let you know.
We'll do it now. We'll do it now.
So I'm talking about fractions of a penny here, and over time, they add up to a lot.
Sure. So Thanksgiving, it looks like, is opening at number 4 with 10.2 million on the weekend, 12.6 worldwide. So not doing too well outside of the continental United States, but 10.2 opening at number 4. The Hunger Games came out this weekend. It obviously won the weekend. Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbird and Snakes. Trolls Band Together, I think, basically had its big opening this weekend, and that came out at number 2, and The Marvels held on at number 3. Wow. So Thanksgiving opened at number 4.
All right. Well, you get your box office early on this special edition of The Pint. I saw it opening night. I think you did too. We talked about it.
Yes.
Empty fucking theater, man. Empty theater. This is Thursday. So the night, technically, Friday, but everybody does Thursday. We went on Thursday night and there was nobody in there. And it was in a small theater too. How was your theatrical experience?
You know what? I had not a jam-packed theater, but there were a lot of people in my showing. It was a medium-sized theater at the AMC, and yeah, like a decent-sized crowd at worst.
Okay. Eli Roth also directed in
What time did you see it? I wonder if that impacts it, because I saw it, like, right at 7 o'clock, like right at prime go to the movies time.
7 p.m. I went with
I
went with the redheaded stranger Laura and her boyfriend Vin, and we had a good time. A lot of laughs were had, but like not a lot of people in there. And yeah, 7 p.m. So, all right. So, Roth also directed the 2018 remake of Death Wish with Bruce Willis, which will probably go down maybe as maybe Bruce Willis's last like big movie theater feature before he, went through all of his kind of health problems and everything. He's in bad shape too, man. Which is fucking terrible.
Yeah,
I guess he can't talk or anything, or man, that's too fucking bad. The writer of this film, the screenplay writer, is a guy named Jeff Rendell. His only real credit that I could find was that he is the guy who co-wrote the story for the trailer in Grindhouse in 2007. So,
okay, good for him.
Good on Eli Roth for giving the guy the job to write the script. It was filmed in March through April of this year, 2023. It was filmed almost entirely in Ontario, Canada, Point Perry, and Toronto. And if this movie had an alternate title, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, I'm sure, it would be called Massachusetts Accent, the Movie.
Yeah.
I love how, this is a film that takes place in Plymouth, Massachusetts. And I love how only like side characters have the hardcore Massachusetts accent, because when they have Patrick Dempsey speaking, they don't want him to sound like he's got a dick in his mouth. So he just speaks like Patrick Dempsey.
Oh, really? I thought Patrick Dempsey had a huge Boston accent in this movie. I thought it was distractingly Bostonian.
See, I wasn't reading it, but the reason I wasn't reading it is because everybody else that had it was distracting. Like that.
Yeah.
Like the kid who gets his head twisted around the rival high school kid. He's like, oh, fuck you and your fucking father. Like that shit.
Yeah.
Patrick Dempsey probably had it, but to me, well, I'm also a New Englander. Maybe it's just like a little bit like gone on my ear. But yeah, everybody else, like the woman who ran the coffee shop, everybody else was like, oh, you better get the fuck out of here.
But none of the kids did. Like, none of the primary protagonist kids spoke like that.
Not at all. Not at all. They're all in the same place. All right, let's talk about the cast of this film.
Assemble your crew.
As we mentioned, Patrick Dempsey plays Sheriff Newton. You probably know him from his very long career, Can't Buy Me Love, Scream 3, and Outbreak. He is the one who spread that shit in the movie theater. If you ever saw that, he's coughing without covering his mouth. He's gross.
Oh, okay.
Patrick
it's been a
Dempsey.
long time since I've seen Outbreak.
I saw it a few years ago for the first time in a long time, and yeah, it's pretty gross. He's coughing, and then they show all the little spitules flying everywhere.
Droplets.
Droplets. There you go. Patrick Dempsey has what I call John Stamos and Rob Lowe disease, which is he just gets better looking as he gets older.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Like, look at Patrick Dempsey and Can't Buy Me Love. You're never going to think that guy grows up to be the guy he is now. Not that he was ugly then, but he just is getting better looking. So playing the role of Gabby is a young, attractive lady named Addison Rae. I didn't write any of her credits down, but here's what I wrote down about Addison Rae.
She's like an internet person, right? Like,
yeah. Addison Rae in 2021, according to Forbes magazine, was the highest earning TikToker. Okay. I don't know if she sang or if she danced or she's good looking. I don't know if maybe it was like makeup tutorials or something, modeling. Stu, how much do you think Addison Rae, just give me a guess, made in 2021 just from YouTube, or I'm sorry, just from TikTok stuff.
Just from TikTok. You're telling me she's the highest grossing, so.
Yep.
150 million?
It's not that high. It's 8.
It's not that high.
8.5 million though.
Oh, okay. I was thinking TikTok did a lot bigger than that. Okay.
Yeah. Well, still think about that.
Yeah, no, trust me. I'd take 8 million for being on TikTok if I had any fucking TikTok skill whatsoever.
Yeah. Apparently she is only behind I've heard the name before. Somebody named Charlie D'Amelio, who is apparently the highest of all time TikToker. Addison Rae is right below her.
I've heard of Addison Rae. I've heard of her for a couple of years now. I've never ever heard of this Charlie girl until literally 2 weeks ago when there was a video of her working at Walmart and she's just like being all cutesy and like, oh, look at me working this cash register job. And it's fucking obnoxious as hell.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man.
But that's the first I've ever heard of her. I've heard of Addison Rae.
Milo Manheim plays Ryan. He was the kind of shady new boyfriend character in this. He is in the current film that's in theaters as well, so he's probably having a decent weekend. Journey to Bethlehem. It's one of those Bible-y films that's comes out like around this time every year. He's also, I guess, really well known for a series of Disney television movies called Zombies 1 through 3. It looks like, I looked it up, it looks like it's probably in the same vein as like High School Musical, like every couple years they spit some new thing out, and this looks like it's some kind of like horror-y Disney type thing. Rick Hoffman plays Thomas Wright, the owner of Wright Mart, which is a Walmart stand-in this film. You would know him from Hostel. In Hostel, he is at the end of the movie in Hostel, when the main character is trying to escape from the torture place, he runs into this guy who is like very excitingly torturing a girl. He also is apparently known very well from the TV show Suits.
I was going to say, he was on Suits. He was on one of those USA shows. I wasn't 1,000,000% sure it was Suits, but I thought it was. Okay.
Yeah. Suits, and also Billions, which I think is on Showtime.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. With Paul Giamatti. Karen Cliche. I just love her last name. Plays Kathleen, who is, the only reason I bring her up is because her character gets baked like a turkey in this film. She was in Saw 6 and a couple of old school, syndicated television shows, Adventure Incorporated and Mutant X, which was, I remember when Mutant X was on, I never watched it, but it was like someone just ripped off X-Men and made a TV show with that name. And then the last two I'll give you, Gina Gershon plays Amanda Collins. You know her from Bound, an episode we did very recently over on the Pint Insider, Showgirls, and Face Off. And she's only featured very shortly in this film, and there's a reason why we'll get to that. And then her husband in the film playing Mitch Collins is a guy named Ty Olson, who I could not fucking figure out who he was through the whole movie until I looked it up later. But on Battlestar Galactica, he was one of the characters in that show that was like on the bridge in every episode and had lines, but like he wasn't ever focused on. He was also in Supernatural for a while, and he was also in X2, X-Men United, I think was the title of that one.
Which character was this?
The husband, the manager who becomes like the protester.
Oh, he was in Supernatural. I'm trying to place him. I don't know.
Yeah, he was. I actually did remember him from what I watched of Supernatural. I think he was the guy that when Dean came back from hell, he brought back with him and they were like friends on Earth in one season.
Oh, the vampire guy.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I think he helped Dean get out. So Dean like hung with him, for a while. Stu, without playing our cards out as to whether you like this movie or not, do you think the first 15 minutes of this movie are fucking awesome? Cause I did.
They're interesting. They really set up the whole, it's a slasher movie, and you want to see so many of these characters die because they're so obnoxious.
Yeah.
Like, even the core group of protagonists, like the 6 or 7 high school kids, like, they're awful. And they're insufferable, and I really just wanted every single one of these characters to die, and it does a decent job as the movie goes on, at least with those teenage characters, getting you behind them and making them seem a little less terrible, at least some of them. But, oh man, that's what I remember mostly is just, I hated all of these characters. They were just so obnoxious. But yeah, I like the riot and everything, and the one poor guy gets trampled to death, and Gina Gershon gets half of her head scalped.
So the movie starts with 2 very different dinner parties. We have the Thomas Wright family. This is the family that owns Right Mart, which is the Walmart type thing in this film. Obviously, he's got a daughter. She's the final girl, essentially. I didn't even write her name down. I don't remember her name.
Jessica.
But Jessica.
Yes.
It's very clear from the early part of this movie that she's going to be the final girl because she's the only one of these kids that's not hyper obnoxious. She's just kind of like, seems like a quiet girl.
And she's the only one that gets like a little bit of story at the beginning. She doesn't just show up in a car with like the other 6 of them.
Yeah, the other 6 are just like, the friends are all just kind of there.
Yeah.
So we have their dinner, and the idea that's made very clear is that Thomas Wright is opening his store on Thanksgiving night, because that's the trend that we were all in for a while. Got to make that money. Black Friday doesn't exist anymore. Black Friday has now rolled to 6 p.m. on Thanksgiving. And in another family dinner, which includes the Gina Gershon character, her husband, who's a manager for his store, and Sheriff Newton, who comes over to have dinner with everybody, we see that the husband gets called into work, and he's basically told, like, if I don't go, I'm going to get fired. So we see the 2 different, like, ideals, like, of, like, Thanksgiving shopping and all this stuff. And that's going to set up the whole thing. Everybody goes, and it's a lot of moving parts, but as Stu said, a fucking riot occurs, which has happened in real life. People have been killed in real life, but this is played off as a fucking pro wrestling style melee. There's one guy who's just trying to get a free waffle maker, and even as he's dying, he's just gripping the waffle maker. Someone tears it out of his dead hands. Gina Gershon's character gets fucking hit in the head as she falls, full blast with a carriage, and then her hair gets wrapped in the carriage wheel, and
that's right.
She gets fucking strip scalped. Like, one strip of her hair, her head gets ripped off. She fucking dies. Her husband sees this happen. So we're getting a lot of like, okay, we know what this movie's going to be about, and now we know it's not just going to be a slasher. It's going to be a Scream style mystery, right? Which I didn't know I thought we were just going to get this like John Carver slasher movie. But instead, they do a pretty good job of introducing the fact that we're trying to figure out who does this. So as the film goes...
Let me interject here, because this was... Of the problems I had with the movie, this was the biggest one for me. And I know we're jumping way to the end of the movie, but since you brought up the mystery aspect, at any point in this movie, did you not know who the killer was?
I'll put it this way. I didn't think about it super hard.
Okay.
Right? Like, I was watching this movie and I was enjoying it, and I was laughing at the parts to laugh at, and I was kind of marveling at some of the kills, which this movie has good kills.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'll be honest. I didn't know it was who it turned out to be. But I also wasn't sitting there really trying too hard. Yeah. Now, at one point, I leaned over to Laura, and I did say to Laura, as the movie went along, I said, what are the odds that this is Gina Gershon? And she survived that. You know what I mean? That was the only real thought I ever had. Now, as we get into it, and again, this is a movie, we're not going to go like the usual all the way through. We're going to jump around. But she is an impetus for what happens. It just wasn't her. She is dead. So you figured this out right away. I mean, but again,
I didn't figure it out. And that's what my problem is. I didn't have to figure it out. I watched this movie, and 15, 20 minutes into the movie, I just went, Patrick Dempsey's the biggest name actor in this movie. He's going to be the killer. At no point, like, I didn't think the clues were there. I didn't have to piece anything together. I just thought, it's going to be Patrick Dempsey because he's head and shoulders above everyone else here in star power. It's the Law and Order trope where, like, anytime they have a special guest star on, the special guest star ends up playing the killer. And it was so disappointing to me when it did end up being Patrick Dempsey, because I just thought, like, well, that was so predictable, but for the worst reason. Not predictable because it's like, I pieced it all together. It was predictable because it's like, well, he's the biggest star, so of course it's going to be him.
Yeah. I understand what you mean by that. I didn't lock him into it because of that. When I started feeling like it might be Gina Gershon, the only thing I was doing throughout the movie, and I know that they could have worked around this, is I was looking at the killer's body, trying to determine if it was a man or a woman. And it was hard to tell. Turns out, it was probably most likely a man playing that. But that was the only thought I had. I was like, what if she didn't die? And I thought at the end, she'd pull the mask off. She'd be all messed up on the head. And it would be this whole thing of like, you made my husband go to work. I brought him food, like you let this happen. And this is what you get. But yeah, no, it is not. So to get through the plot of this film, there are a lot of red herrings thrown out there.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Jessica character's boyfriend from the night of Thanksgiving of, let's say, 2022, who got his pitching arm. He's an ace pitcher. He gets fucking wrecked during this riot.
Yeah,
like his arm.
If you've ever seen the people in kickboxing matches where they accidentally shin kick each other at the same time and you see one of their legs just kind of flop, that's what happens to his arm during the riot. Yeah, it's pretty effective.
Yeah, so I think it's important also to mention, which we didn't, that the bulk of this movie takes place a year later on the following Thanksgiving. The Thomas Wright character wants to open on Thanksgiving again. Everybody in this town is like fucking bad. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people are like, bad idea, bad look, dude. Like people died, people got hurt really badly, but he's like, I'm doing this. We find out that his new fiance or wife, erased all of the video footage to kind of save him, so that the cops couldn't really nail down what happened. And it seems like all of a sudden people start dying in different methods, but based on the fact of things that they did that were videotaped during this riot. There's just some real shitbag people. Stu, let's just get into the kills. Give me a couple kills that you really enjoyed. Like,
I thought the best one was the first one, pretty much. I mean, outside of the riot, the first kill we see once we're into the John Carver slasher is the lady who's trying to hide in the dumpster, and he rams his car into the dumpster, and the lid slams down real hard and cuts her in half. I thought that was really effective. It comes after he runs her face under cold water and then sticks her face to the freezer, and she has to peel her face off the freezer. I mean, it's a lot of Eli Roth stuff going on here with the brutality and the gore and everything. But yeah, then she gets completely cut in half by the lid of a dumpster. I thought that was the best one for the kills.
Her bottom half, her lower half gets put on the top of the right mark, like the W, the pointy part of the W, and displayed there, and it's clearly up her ass. The Sheriff Newton Dempsey's character comes and is like, get her down. I think there are some pretty good ones. The scene I think that gave me the most agita as a watcher was the Russian girl, because they made such a good...
that with they gave that one away in the trailers. They showed that in the trailers, him using the corn of the cob holders and sticking them in her ear. So I knew it was coming, but it's still like, that was the hardest part of the movie to watch, because you can feel that one in your soul.
Yeah, I didn't actually see the trailer, or at least that version. But what they do a lot in her scene is she's, getting ready to travel, and there's a lot of scenes of her about to put a contact in. So there's a lot of like close touch on eyes and ears. She Q-tips her ears.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, oh, something's going to happen. And just as nothing happens, as Stu said, the killer puts the little corncob spikes in her fucking ears. And as she's writhing, eventually she ends up fucking falling on a table saw.
That's right. That's what ultimately happens. I had forgotten that. Yeah, that was gross. And I like the shock that her boyfriend is in, where she's just been table sawed for like a solid minute, like in the midsection. And the guy's like, well, Jessica, what do I do?
Yeah. That was a character I thought, as you mentioned before, was, I think an example of some good writing, because when you first meet him, Scuba, you're just like, oh, this is just a douchebag football player. But like, you actually start to like him as the movie goes along. He's clearly trying to protect Jessica and his girlfriend. They do a good job of some of the relationships in this movie of not making it be like typical, like, high school, like, oh, I'm just banging her. Like, he really loved his Russian girlfriend that gets killed. He felt really fucking bad when she died. So another question about this movie, Stu, did you think that tonally it dropped the ball as it went along further? Because that's something I kind of felt. I felt like the first 15 minutes were so kind of uproarious and funny in certain bits, and we were laughing out loud, and it kind of carried that through for maybe the first half hour of the film. And then when it becomes more of a threadbare, or a standard slasher film, I kind of felt like it lost a little of that. I mean, obviously we get the human turkey at the end. I know, I understand that, but did you feel that way like I did? Like that maybe like the laughs were all front loaded for the most part in this movie?
I'll agree with that, but I'll almost controversially go the other direction where I thought the movie early on was trying so hard to be funny, and I didn't think it was funny because, like I told you, I had a fairly well-packed movie theater, and people were laughing at this movie, and I was just going like, I don't think this movie's that funny. Like I didn't get the laughs, like the kills that were funny, like the lady getting the lid and getting chopped in half. People laughed at that, and I laughed at that because that was a good kill, but like, the attempts at humor the movie was going for, they just weren't personally landing for me. Okay. So when the movie later on more or less just gave up on going for the yucks, I kind of liked it more.
Okay, that's fair, but I still think it's just a weird, like, sudden shift. Yeah.
Because it does stop going for, like, gags and everything.
First, like, 20-25 minutes, like the riot, and then maybe a little bit after that, it just felt like it was constant gag. And then, you know, and I get it, maybe if you're trying to get more serious, like there's a killer on the loose, but like it just feels like it dropped most of that and just went right into that. Now, Stu, you're a purveyor and a lover of the slasher film. By the way, if you're a lover of slasher films and you're listening to this podcast, go over to whatever podcatcher you have and find our buddy from The Countdown, Paul Prezula's limited series podcast he did that just ended in October, called The Slashers. They go through over the course of like 6 or 7 or 8 episodes. They go through slasher films from 1980 to 84. And I really enjoyed it. It was Paul, Jason from Binge Movies, and Jesus, I cannot remember her name. Megan. It was Megan from Spoiler Piece Theater. Mm-hmm. So 3 podcasters. Megan is an actual, I guess, posted critic. And they really went deep into the slasher genre, and it was a very fun show. So check that out, The Slashers, and you will recognize it by its like black logo with red lettering and like blood lettering. Anyways, you being a fan of slashers, Stu, what did you think of the John Carver mask? What did you think of the whole, I guess, like essentially the look of John Carver? Because that's important, right? Michael Myers has a look. Jason has a look.
It was something. It was interesting. I didn't have any real problems with the look of him. I didn't think it was phenomenal or anything. It's just like a little cheap dollar store kid's plastic mask, you know, with the rubber band behind it that you slide over your face. It was interesting. I like the idea that, you know, it's based off a guy on the Mayflower and it's important to Plymouth, Massachusetts. I will say more to how I felt about this as a slasher. There are some excellent scenes in this movie where you can tell, despite all the gore and the viscera and everything, that Eli Roth is really influenced by Halloween, the original from 1978, because there are a lot of shots where the John Carver killer is in the background and out of focus, or you just kind of see him. There is one shot in particular I thought was so brilliant, and I loved it, where a character is walking down the hallway and John Carver comes out from behind a corner behind them. The moment he starts coming out from behind the corner, it cuts to another scene. So you just barely see him start to come out from behind a corner, and then it cuts to whatever it cuts to. And I thought like, oh my God, that's so effective. It's giving me the chills talking about it. It gave me the chills in theater, just how well it was shot, where like you have this sense of impending doom, but it immediately is like, no, we're not going to show you.
Right.
And he was so well influenced by just the constant creeping dread of Michael Myers from 78. And you can see that here with the way he shoots the Carver character.
There's a scene at the end where the Kathleen character, the woman that ends up getting baked like a turkey, where she's going through the house trying to escape, and she goes through a door and you can clearly see him off camera just behind the door, but it's not done as a typical shot where it's like from the front and you're like, oh, he's behind the door.
Yeah.
It's her walking through the door and she just walks past him, but because I said to Laura, I said, he's behind the fucking door. Like you could see him there, but the camera just goes by him. And I thought that was pretty good. There's definitely some good filmmaking here. Yeah, Eli Roth is, you know, the guy has like the shows on Shudder, and the guy is a fucking, he's a good filmmaker, and he's obviously fucking adept at fucking making horror. Also a little factoid about Eli Roth, if you don't know this, just to throw it out there, we talked about it on the QT, is that he directed the film in Inglourious Bastards that they're watching in the movie theater. So that film, the film about the German sniper, the movie in the movie is made by Eli Roth.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yep. So as the film goes along, we keep getting some of these kills. We're trying to put everything together. Like I said before, there's the one boyfriend that left town. Oh boy, that's a thought I started like 10 minutes ago. There's one boyfriend who gets his arm broken. That was the kickboxer conversation from fucking 10 minutes ago. I never finished. He leaves town. He comes back a year later. So immediately he's a suspect. The new boyfriend is this kind of suspect, as the kids would say, sus, kid that might have a relationship with someone got killed during the riot. So there's a lot of little things going on here that are making you think. The Mitch character whose wife got killed, obviously, at one point, he's even just out and about wearing the John Carver mask, which everybody's wearing anyway.
Yeah.
But they're kind of focusing on it. He drives a van, and they say at one point,
I like the idea that there's a diner giving away these little dollar John Carver masks, and the one character's like, everyone in town's going to be wearing these. I'm like, will they? Will they, though? I don't think they will.
Stu, you'd be wearing one if you lived in Plymouth, Mass. Don't fucking deny it.
And they had the pilgrim hats, too, which
they
I
did.
don't know where everybody seemed to get those that they had, but
I think if you live in Plymouth, Mass, it's just
you're
part
just
of the
born with one. You're just born. They give you a hat.
They give you like colonial clothes or like just in case.
With a buckle on it.
If you look, if you need a hat with a buckle on it, just go to Plymouth fucking Mass, okay? They got a whole store. It's called Buckle Hats.
Buckle hats.
Jimmy John Buckle Hats. Right there on Old Main Street.
That's what their lids is full of. It's just full of buckle hats.
You go into
the team's logos.
You go into the fucking mall and there's some kid trying to upsell you on the lids program. And it's like, yeah, you can get a Bruins hat with a fucking buckle on it, buddy. Bring it down to the donkey. So as we go further along, we get some more kills or some more good stuff. Some more of these people are dying. As we mentioned twice before in the episode, horrendous.
What did you think of the trampoline kill? Because it seemed like people in the theater I was in were really cringed at that one. Like, oh God, just jumping on a trampoline and coming down on a knife on your foot and then on your hand.
In the movie, it was good. But did you ever end up watching the trailer or no? The original? Did you ever watch?
I still haven't seen the original trailer. No.
So here's where I think for me, it might have lost a little bit, but I also understand how they might not have been able to do this even in an R-rated film. So the original trailer, and I implore you, listeners and Stu, find it on YouTube. It's filmed as if it's a 1970s like grindhouse slasher. So it's. And, it's got the voice like, this Thanksgiving. Like, it's that whole thing. So the scene where the woman gets made into the turkey at the end, that's in the trailer.
Okay.
The trampoline scene's in the trailer, but in the trailer in Grindhouse.
I have a feeling I know where this is going, and I don't think I like it.
She jumps up in the air, does a split.
Oh, yeah, I don't like it.
The knife comes up, and then you don't see it, but you hear her screaming. And I think that was kind of brilliant on his part to do it differently, because I know when that scene came up, I was like, oh, fucking no. I don't want to see this chick take a fucking, like a kitchen knife up the twat. And they did it differently. She lands on with her foot, she falls, then she lands on her side. Yeah. But I also wonder if like straight up, they just like the MPAA was like, no.
No. We're not going to stand for that.
Nobody gets stabbed in the taint, ass, or pussy on our watch. Sorry, it's not happening. Yeah, let's talk about the turkey kill, though. So I found this to be the kill itself. When they serve her at the dinner table, it's a little goofy. It looks horrifying, but it's a little goofy. But I will say this, man, the actual kill, the idea of being put in an industrial-sized fucking oven was fucking brutal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't like that at all.
No.
I mean, look, just the idea of it I don't like, because it's one of those things like you can kind of picture in your head, and what are you going to do? Kick the door open? You're going to burn the hell out of your foot. You're not going to be able to do it. Yeah, no, that's rough. That's real rough.
And those scenes were actually good because they do show like her toes touch like the wall.
Yeah.
And you hear them burning up. I'm like, oh, Christ. So in the end, the daughter, Jessica, determines through some I guess fauna on the leg of the sheriff that it's him. What's the reason that Patrick Dempsey, aka either McDreamy or McSteamy, I'm not sure which one he was, why did he go nuts and start killing everybody in town?
He was McDreamy. The guy from Dog Soldiers was McSteamy.
Okay, all right.
He and Gina Gershon were having an affair, and she was pregnant with his kid, and she was going to leave her husband to be with him. But obviously she and the baby she was carrying died at the riots. So Patrick Dempsey was getting ready to start this new life, having to break his best friend's heart, but moving on with Gina Gershon and their baby. And, you know, that gets ruined whenever she got mauled at the Right Mart.
So it's a revenge story. Now, let me say this right off the bat. Gina Gershon, at 61 years old in this film, could still get it.
I didn't recognize her at all. I was looking through the credits of this movie because I was writing up a review, and I saw Gina Gershon, and I was like, no, that wasn't Gina Gershon. I mean, she's still an attractive lady, don't get me wrong, but she doesn't look like Gina Gershon anymore.
Well, she's 61.
Well, yeah.
And here's the other part of that bothered me was, again, I'll repeat, 61-year-old Gina Gershon can get it. But if you're going to have a clearly older woman in that role, don't make her pregnant.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't tell me she was pregnant.
You could have literally just said we were in love and she was going to leave him and we were going to get married. They could have figured out any other way to add another level of it being personal to Patrick Dempsey's character, but don't tell me the septuagenarian woman or whatever she is. I think that's 70s, that she has a life in her womb. It probably ain't happening.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, she definitely passed for like a 50-year-old woman.
Yeah, certainly. No, in real life,
but she's still not having a baby at 50.
Yeah, in real life, she's 61, and you're right. They probably were passing her off for like 52 or something, which is fine. She looked fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought, the pregnancy angle, don't give me that shit. I get it. Patrick Dempsey's sperm is probably really, really fucking strong. We see what his genetics can do, but all right. So, all right, we find that out, and then it just becomes the standard like cat and mouse game between the two of them. In the long run, she ends up blowing him up in a what did she use? There's a musket. She uses a
blunderbuss.
She uses the blunderbuss,
which they telegraph really well early on. Yeah,
super. I agree. Super. Like, you got this one character that comes into this movie who's like a metalhead gun dealing guy who has some funny lines in the film, but like there's just one scene where he just shoots off a blunderbuss and yells out blunderbuss, and she explains how when she was a kid her father made her load one over and over again. You're like, oh boy, this is going to come into play.
As soon as she said that, it's like, okay, I'll wait for that moment then, movie. Don't worry.
Yeah. Did you like the little, like you said, there's like kind of the homage, especially in the beginning, like the first scene where you see someone looking at the front door and it says Thanksgiving and everything. Did you like I felt the little homage to My Bloody Valentine at the end when the firefighters are walking out?
Oh yeah,
because you're kind of wondering, like the way that movie ends.
One of them him under the mask. Yeah.
Do you think there's going to be a sequel, or do you think that what we talked about earlier, the box office is probably going to say no?
I don't know. I can't imagine Machete made a ton of money either. I mean, it's an R-rated movie. It opened against the Marvels in week 2, and both the Trolls movie, which is a kids movie, which is always going to have a crowd, and the new Hunger Games movie. They couldn't have really expected it to do any better than top out at number 4. So what could the budget of this movie have been? Like 30 million? I imagine 15. 50?
15.
Okay. I was like, 50 million. What the hell did they spend that on?
All the CGI, Stu.
Okay. Yeah, 15 million. This movie will end up making its money back. It could conceivably get a sequel. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see something like DTV or, something that goes straight to like Peacock or something.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's the end of Thanksgiving. It was Patrick Dempsey all along, that motherfucker. All right, we talked about the box office early on, so I'm not going to put anything right here. But what I will say is, let's rate this thing.
That guy who spent 6 weeks in the bathroom got a 91.
As we always do, 0 to 5 on the pint here. 0 being the worst thing ever, 5 being the best thing ever. Quarter and half scale optional. I'll go first. I enjoyed this movie. I had a fun time. It's something I could watch again. The first 15 minutes, I laughed a lot at it. I thought the riot scene was fucking fantastic. I thought the use of, again, being a New Englander, I thought the use of the Boston accent heavily through this movie was pretty funny. I liked the writing. I liked some of the, like you said, the kids didn't all turn out just to be shitbags. Like, they actually gave them a little bit of characterization, some of them more than others, and, you know, all that. The kills were good. Like, as we mentioned, the turkey roasting scene, the woman in the diner was good. The saw blade was good. And there was a couple more thrown out through there that were pretty good. So that's what you're going to ask for in a slasher.
Patrick Dempsey gets blowed up.
Patrick Dempsey blows up real fucking good. I think it's always important, you know, as we talk about horror movies, to kind of go to was it scary? No, it wasn't scary. There wasn't really, you know, like we mentioned, there's a couple good shots, like Stu said, with the killer in the background and stuff like that. But overall, most of the stuff that was well done, like the scene I mentioned with the Q-tips and everything, that wasn't scary. That was just foreshadowing and kind of keeping you on the edge of your seat. You're like, oh, this girl's going to get something in her fucking ear. And she does, but that's still not scary. So I'm going to go with a 3.25. I enjoyed it. It didn't uphold what I felt in the beginning all the way through, but it's something I could throw on again. It was something I would recommend to people. I had a lot of laughs. I had a good time. So yeah, it's a solid film. Eli Roth, you know, I've never been, I don't think he's done one movie that I've loved, but I've liked most of what he's done that I've seen. Hostel, I agree with you. I'm not into torture porn. I do think Hostel is a well-made film and there's a place for it. I think Cabin Fever, has some interesting bits in it. The Green Inferno was fucking weird, but it had some moments I liked. So he's kind of this guy that just never fully hits all the way, and this is kind of the same thing. Stu, what do you give Thanksgiving?
I actually was thinking the exact same score. I was thinking 3.25. I gave it a 3 on Letterboxd, but that felt low to me, but a 3.5 felt a little high. So I was thinking the exact same 3.25. Almost certain to go up if I watch it again, because I really did enjoy it, and I really honestly do think it's just unimpeachably well made. Like, he definitely has an eye for shooting scenes, and he just does so well. And I will say, like, to the scary point, I don't know, is there a scary slasher? I don't watch slasher movies to be scared. I watch slasher movies because I just like slasher movies anyway. I guess they scared me when I was a kid, but now I just watch them because I enjoy the characters. I enjoy the storyline around slashers so much. And this felt so much like the slashers that I liked whenever I was a kid. It was the latter Friday the 13th movies where they introduce characters that you're going to want to see die. Like, the movie knows right. These characters are there for us to enjoy seeing die. So they set them up to be dick bags that we're not going to mind seeing get killed. Yeah, I just really enjoyed it. Honestly, the biggest problem I had with this movie was that Patrick Dempsey was the killer, because it just felt so easy. It felt so easy for the biggest star in the movie to be the killer, and that was the biggest problem I had with it. So if I watch it again and I'm less invested in, who's the killer going to ultimately end up being, I will definitely like it more. But, you know, when you're watching it for the first time and you don't know yet, and you said you didn't, so you're a better person than I am. I get caught up in these kind of things in movies and trying to solve the ending, even though I'm abjectly terrible at it. The first time I was just too caught up in, like, who's going to be the killer? Is it going to be this guy? I hope it's not this guy. Oh shit, it's this guy. But, going forward, I'm not going to have that issue. So I see this moving up to at least a 3.5. It's really well made and enjoyable. And with all the stuff that I don't like about Hostel, it's gross and it's torture porny, and it's clearly just not for me. That's not a genre that I want to watch. This movie does gore the right way. It's gory and it's bloody and it's brutal, but it's not gross. The closest it comes is, and I don't know what this is with Eli Roth, because he did the same thing in Hostel. Like, why you have to have a guy who's gagged throw up? I don't need that in my life.
Oh, yeah.
But he does that again here. And even then, like, it wasn't a ball gag like it was in Hostel, so it wasn't nearly as gross as it was in Hostel. I'm getting a little nauseous thinking of that, but
well,
go ahead.
I just want to answer, though, when you mentioned earlier, not to go through them all, but Halloween's a scary slasher. I mean, maybe you're grandfathering that, but like
Yeah.
Halloween is legitimately a frightening movie through a lot of it.
It's you know what? I saw Halloween when I was a kid. Halloween never scared me. Jason was the only one that scared me.
See, Jason doesn't scare me at all.
Well, no, not now, but I mean, like when I was 5 or 6.
Okay, all right. But I do think
Jason
Halloween,
doesn't scare me now.
I wonder.
I remember seeing the Halloween movie when I was a kid, and I don't think I had the eye for movie making whenever I was a kid, where I noticed that he's in the background like all the time, just this creeping danger.
Right. I wonder also, like, I do think that the firefighter thing was an homage kind of to My Bloody Valentine, and I also wonder if A, making your biggest star of the film, Patrick Dempsey the killer, and B, making him the sheriff of the film was an homage to the Prowler. Because in the Prowler, the sheriff is the killer, and it's the biggest star of the movie. At the time, it was Farley Granger, I think.
Okay.
So I wonder if, like, he put that right out there under your nose as well. Because kind of my thought process is, and again, I wasn't really thinking about it. Look, I'm the guy that thought it was the dead woman. So, like, clearly wrong. But like, I kind of thought maybe having Patrick Dempsey in the role in the film, top billed, was like a red herring, like almost like he can't be the killer. It's Patrick Dempsey. He has to be the hero, but he was not. So, all right. So a couple of 3.25s. We both enjoyed it. It was a good time at the movie. Stu, you were nervous because you even messaged me. You're like, wish me luck, because I know that you're not a fan of like Hostel and stuff, but
yeah, I was real scared this was going to be gross out gory. And it's not, like I said, it's not at all.
No, it was a pretty fun movie. All right, Stu, what's new on the SWO Productions? This is coming out week of Thanksgiving, so do you have anything in particular you want to talk about?
I actually, on Thanksgiving Day, I have my written review of this movie coming out.
Oh, perfect. They'll both be out on the same day. So
they'll both be out on the same day, so you can read my more thorough written review where I talk about how I have passed 100 new release movies on the year. That was the goal I set for myself back in January. I wanted to see 100 movies that came out this year, and I did by the midpoint in November, so that wasn't as hard as I thought. What is this movie? This movie is Thanksgiving. It was actually number 101. My 100th movie of the year was Slaughterhouse.
Oh, Jesus Christ. You and Joey from So Wizard.
Well, Joey liked it. I was not a big fan of Slaughterhouse, but I saw it.
Joey, I hope you're listening to this, but you know as well as we do, you like some shit movies, for sure. Yeah, I think Thanksgiving, as I put it in my letterbox, was my 17th new release of 2023.
Not quite the same.
I mostly watch older things, or the same things over and over again. All right. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. Hope you get filled with turkey and eat the green bean casserole for me. It's always one of my favorites. If you're going to do stuffing, do the sausage kind, not like the fruit and nuts kind. Come on, don't be that guy. And until we come back in about a week with Stargate, see ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over. Nothing is over. Nothing. You just don't turn it off.